Okay, this is lab C5 on page 221 of the textbook. I'm doing trial A number 3. I'm rubbing the acetate rod with the wool. I'm replacing acetate for the ebonite because it works better. And then I move it close and I touch the electroscope. Okay. Notice what happens to the leaves. So what's happening here? What's the charge on the rod? And what happens when I touch the electroscope with the rod? Okay, so you should know what charge is on this acetate rod, and actually you should know what the charge is on the wool as well. Okay, that's number 3, trial A. Okay, I'm going to ground the electroscope. I'm going to do number 4 now. So in this case, it's similar to what we did, but we're just going to bring the rod, the acetate rod, close but not touch. Okay, it's close but not touching. So you notice what you notice there with the leaves. Okay, it's close but I'm not touching it. Okay, I'm just going to ground it just to make sure. Number 5, we're going to use glass and silk. So glass and silk. So you should know what the charge on the glass is as well as I rub it. So they don't want me to touch the electroscope. So glass and silk doesn't appear to be working here. Okay. So that doesn't appear to give a response. Well, slightly. If you look at it very carefully, there's a slight response. Okay. The leaves open slightly, the glass, and not touching the electroscope. Okay, in trial B, we repeat the steps, but we reverse it. So in 3 to 4, we're using a glass with a wool. Okay, so I'm going to ground the electroscope. So use the glass with the wool. And so this is number 3 of trial A, but we're using glass instead. So I'm going to actually touch the electroscope. There's a slight response. If you look carefully, there's a slight response there. You can see that the leaves open. Now, remember, you should understand what the charge on the glass is, what the charge on the wool is, and then when I touch it, what happens? What happens to the electrons in the electroscope? Okay, so I'm going to tap that to ground it. And so I'm going to do it with the glass again. This is procedure 4. And this time I'm not going to touch. I'm just going to move very close, but not touch. Okay, you can see there's a slight movement apart. Okay, it's not very pronounced, but there is a slight movement apart when I bring it close, but not touching. Okay, so why is that happening? Given the charge on the glass, what's happening to electrons in the electroscope even when I'm not touching it to cause those leaves to go apart? Okay, we'll ground it again just to make sure that we start fresh. Next, we're going to use the procedure 5, but instead of glass, we're using the acetate rod. And I'm supposed to bring it close but not touch. Oops. Let's do that again. I touched it by accident. Okay, again, you see that the leaves move even though I'm not touching. So what's the charge on this thing? What's the charge on the silk? And why, even without touching, do the leaves move apart? Give you a hint, you probably want to take a look at page 215 and 216 of your textbook to understand that.